WWDC 2021 is in the books, and there is so much to cover. There were a lot of rumors of possible hardware being launched at this event, like the MacBook Pro, but I'll give you a spoiler alert right now, there was nothing. This year, the focus was completely on software, so let's go ahead and start off with iOS. One of the biggest updates was to Facetime, which has gotten a lot of healthy changes and a new feature set as well. You can now enable spatial audio on FaceTime calls, which is super cool. What spatial audio will do is give you a more surround audio experience and directional audio, which is very cool. You can also manage your microphone settings to allow either a voice isolation mode or a voice mode that is ultra wide, a wide spectrum one that will allow you to hear things even more clearly in your environment. The voice isolation mode I am very excited about because I'm often annoyed by ambient sounds when I'm on a FaceTime call with other people, and just having that focused noise will be awesome. Along with that, we also have a new grid view mode that allows you to see all the participants on a FaceTime call in equal sized boxes instead of having those weird floaty things that will just shoot up whenever someone speaks. Very annoying. This is way nicer, and I think something that I'll be using a lot more than the weird thingy it does right now. In addition to all the audio updates, you can also now have a portrait mode while you're doing FaceTime calls. So it'll give you a nice unique blur in the back. It'll just look a little bit more professional if you like that bokeh look or something. FaceTime calls can now be scheduled as well and shared through links or put in calendars, which would allow people to actually access these even without Apple devices. So if you don't have an Apple device, you can still attend these calls through a browser. So that's, I guess, FaceTime on Android for you guys finally. You can also now share music, videos, or your screen while you're on a FaceTime call. And this allows for stuff like watch parties or for you to share your screen on a meeting when you do something a little bit more serious. And I think that's been something that's been very clearly missing on FaceTime. And it's why it's been a more leisure thing and not a serious thing like Zooms or Microsoft Teams for meetings or collaborations in the workplace. This should really give it a big step up. Messages has also been tweaked to allow for a better experience when sharing photos and links. A new feature called Shared With You allows you to save links, articles, playlists, albums to view them at another time. So let's just imagine that someone sends you a link to an article in a group chat. Now, group chats keep moving along, and say you missed it or you didn't have time to read it then because you were, say, in a meeting and you just couldn't, take a moment to read it. What Apple will do is Apple will pull that article and put it in the news app, so whenever you do have free time, you can just look at those items, and through that thing, you can also send direct replies back to that original message. And this works with not just news articles, it works with Apple Music, with shared playlists, it works with Apple TV, the Photos app, Safari, so it's a very nice thing to have, and will be a lot easier to kind of manage all the stuff that you get in a day. Notifications have also finally been revamped. So notifications are something that have been a problem for a while, and Apple has now restyled them a little bit. So they do show you contact images of people. It also shows you app icons a little bit more prominently, and they've been created in a way where it's a little bit more easy to understand. They've also created a notification summary that will pull all the random notifications you get in a day into one group, and it will allow you to view them whenever you want. And what they'll do is it'll just kind of make this compilation, and it'll appear like once a day. So you get them once a day instead of having individual messages pop up on you all day. Now, this won't apply to things like messages directly sent from people or emails, but other things like just random notifications from a game or say like a social media app. Those will not come in and clutter your notifications. So messages will be, kind of not bunched into those summaries, and it will be shown immediately, which I think just sounds like the perfect compromise, and I'm sure you can tweak these as needed. There's also new focus modes that will allow you to create a profile of sorts for things such as, a app home screen layout, notifications, and selective do not disturbs. And this is meant to kind of help you focus on work during work hours, your personal life during off hours, and you can customize these profiles to suit your needs. And, say I only want this selection of apps to send me notifications when I'm working, and I only want this selection of apps to send me notifications while I'm on my off time. I don't want my work notifications to come in when I'm at home, and I don't want my home, my personal life to bother me while I'm at work. So you can just create and customize these profiles to suit your needs. And I think, one of my favorite parts was just having an entire custom home screen for each profile. So say you're at work, you don't want apps like YouTube or, social media to kind of create and get you sidetracked. So especially while you're working. So it's just cool to have a page with only the apps that are related to work. And then on your off hours, have one that has all the stuff that's more entertainment or things you can do when you have some more free times. And I also really like the fact now that if you have Do Not Disturb enabled, people sending you messages on an iMessage, they'll be notified even before you get they send a message, so that you can see, oh, okay, this person is busy and they can't respond. So that's really cool. A few other features that are coming, such as live text, will be very helpful. What live text does is it pulls information from text and screenshots and just transcribes them from a image to actual text. There's also a visual lookup feature, which is very similar to Google Lens. It will identify objects and images and give you more information about them. Spotlight is also getting improvements on iOS and can take advantage of this live text feature to find and give you even more relevant results when you search for things. So a lot of things in that aspect. And a few other things that are really cool is that memories and photos, so you get those memories on the photos, they get even more features that will allow you to create really interactive videos with your photos and videos that are created, and they'll be created around a song from Apple Music. From your library, from your taste, they'll be curated, and it's going to be something you can change, and you can change those songs, and it'll automatically change the look, feel, and pacing of the entire video based on the beats and the way that song sounds. So the entire look and feel of it will just completely change according to the song you choose. While I don't think this is a feature that will be used a ton by a lot of people, I do find the technology behind it fascinating, how quickly it can do this stuff. So I'll definitely be trying it out and giving you guys my thoughts on it. So another cool thing is that Apple is now working to bring digital IDs issued by states, such as, driver's licenses or, those actual IDs you have with your name and address and all that, into the Wallet app, which is going to be very helpful. And they say that it'll be able to be used when you're traveling in TSA and stuff like that. So that's very cool. Support for keys like car keys and home keys is also being extended into the Wallet app. And they had it before, but now it's going to be improving even more. They say more people are joining in. So we should be seeing a little bit more of that key support in the Wallet app with iOS 15. The weather and map apps have also gotten small tweaks and improvements that will mostly improve their experience. They're mainly visual updates that'll focus on things like more animations and just a little bit more depth and detail. Maps will now be getting a AR mode to help direct you a little bit better when you're kind of on the street or something, walking around, but it is limited to a few cities for the time being, so it's not something that's going to be widespread available the way Google is right now. So Google Maps does have this feature as well, but it's way more widespread. So that was it for iOS, and man, it feels like I've said a lot, but in reality, the changes are pretty small, and you really won't it won't change the way you use your iPhone on a day-to-day basis. That being said, the good news about that is that iOS 15 is supported on every single device that can support iOS 14. So that means iOS 15 is supported all the way going back to the iPhone 6s. So that's great news for anybody who's still using an iPhone 6s. And from there, we kind of just moved into iPadOS, something people were very much looking forward to. I personally tempered my expectations, but a lot of folks were very excited given that the new iPad Pro has that M1 chip. It's very powerful. And the reality is that the iPadOS is not taking full advantage of all that power in there. So I can understand why people were just really hoping for some big changes to help iPad take advantage of the hardware it has. But what we got wasn't that big anyway, so let's just get into it. Apple now has, iPadOS, now has widgets that can be placed anywhere. And like iOS, we now have an app library. The app library here, though, it is located in the dock, so you don't have to swipe all the way to the ends. You can just hit a little thing on your dock, and it'll show you the entire app library, which I think is actually a good idea. Neither of these features are new, but they weren't available on iPadOS. They were just available on iOS before. Some of these widgets now will have even a larger size than they have currently to take advantage of all the space on iPad, so that's going to be awesome. There are new Find My and Contacts widgets that are going to be added as well. Multitasking is kind of the biggest change here. It was reworked to be more clear and user-friendly. There will be a little tab that pops up where you can easily choose between split screen or the overview thing, which will allow you to kind of easily navigate right now, because what happens is right now if I try to multitask, it's just very weird. The gestures just don't make sense sometimes. It does become confusing. So that's going to be nice to have those toggles there to easily split between apps. And Apple is also bringing shelves to iPadOS, which is a very similar to desktop on Mac, where you have a bunch of different desktops. Now there's going to be a bunch of different shelves, which will have the open multitasking windows with split screen apps, and it'll allow you to run way more combinations of windows open without having to repeatedly, close or change ones that you currently have. So that's going to be a very nice addition. And there will also be keyboard shortcuts implemented to take advantage of multitasking now, which wasn't there before. So you had to do it all touch-based. So now keyboard input will be very much appreciated to kind of make split screen windows, because I do use a keyboard with my iPad, so I'm very, very excited about that. Notes are going to be improved as well with tags that allow you to find things easier. So note sorting will be a lot more concise and just be easier, especially if you have hundreds of notes like I do. The iPad and Mac will also be able to take advantage of a new feature called Quick Notes that will allow you to make notes from anywhere in the UI. So all you have to do is from the bottom right, swipe towards the middle, and a quick little panel will open with Quick Notes. You can write, you can type, you can do whatever you want in there, and it'll quickly save, and it'll also kind of link exactly to the app or web page or whatever you're on. So you can quickly go towards it whenever you open that. It'll kind of pop up, hey, do you want this quick note again? Since you were obviously interested in it when you opened it up. That's going to be a cool feature, and I definitely see myself using it very regularly. And Translate also is going to be on the iPad now. So it was an iPhone only thing, but now Translate is available on the iPad as well. Translate is a kind of just translation thing, very similar to Google Translate, but now it's going to be available system-wide, which is going to be nice. So if you're on a web page that has like something that's not in English, you can quickly just highlight it, and there will be a translate option, kind of where you see the cut, copy, paste. That menu will also have a translate built in, so you can see what is actually stated without having to copy, put it in another app, and paste it, and just kind of go from there. You can also now run Swift Playground on your iPad and create apps for the iPad and iPhone directly on your iPad, and you can even publish them right from your iPad onto the App Store. iPadOS 15 is available on all iPads that supported iPadOS 14, and this goes all the way back to the iPad Air 2, which I think is now 8 years old. Very, very awesome. So moving on, Apple dedicated a lot of time to talk specifically about privacy. Apple has clearly been leaning on the privacy marketing factor in their advertisements and just in everything recently. And this was definitely them just walking their talk. A few key points and features they added across platforms included mail privacy protection. So this makes it so that emails that have little trackers in them that you don't know about, they won't be able to access information such as your IP, your location, or even if you've read the email or opened it yet. All that information will be blocked from being sent back to whoever sent that email, which is awesome. And Safari also builds onto this, and they won't let your IP be seen by those who are tracking you. And the Settings app will now have a dedicated page called App Privacy Reports, and these reports will show you time-stamped records of how many times an app is using things like your location, your camera, your mics, things like that. And it'll allow you to understand and follow what data is being pulled from you and which apps are doing it. It's just a fantastic way to find out which apps are taking advantage of the permissions you give them. And if you do want, you can just cut them off. iCloud got a few updates as well that makes it easier for you to add a trusted contact to recover your account if you ever lose a password. And there's also something called Digital Legacy now, which will allow you to set who can access your data after you pass away. So once you pass away, if you want somebody to have access to it, you can just have them linked in there, and it'll make the process of recovering your account a lot easier. And Apple also announced something called iCloud Plus, which I thought would be a little bit more of a premium service, but we'll get into it. It was just I couldn't understand why exactly it was called iCloud Plus, because it sounded like this is going to be a little bit more Safari focused, where it's going to introduce more encryption features that make sure that your web browsing or anything you enter is going to just be encrypted all the way, and nobody can see along the way what's happening from the second you send it to the second you get it back. It sounded like a VPN to me, but it just seemed a little bit unclear, and they didn't really spend a lot of time talking about it. Another cool feature that iCloud Plus has is something that allows you to create a dummy or throwaway account email account for, forwarding emails for like websites you're not sure about, or you just don't want them to have your real address. And you can create as many of them as you want, and you can just delete them without any issues. So if you just, wanted to enter it into something and not have it kind of clutter your email, you can just delete that. And anytime they send an email to that, it just won't get forwarded to your account if you delete that account. So it's very interesting, but information is still unclear on both of these features. So Apple said that the cost of this is going to be the same as normal iCloud. So I'm not sure if this is like something that everybody's going to get, if this is the new standard for everyone. Whatever it is, we'll see what it is when iOS 15 comes to the public. So in addition to privacy, Apple has also clearly been focusing a lot on health. They spent a good chunk of time talking about things they were working on and introduced a couple of new features to provide a better insight to your health as well. And this included things like a walking steadiness measure that would notify you if your walking is off, if you could trip because of that, and it'll just monitor everything related to that, which is super cool. I've never really thought about that too much, and it's very clear that Apple is trying to make health a very big priority here. So going back to software, let's talk about watchOS. There honestly isn't that much to talk about watchOS, and it really doesn't have a lot of room for change, to be honest. It's really good as it is, so there's not a lot of improvements that really reflect that. There is a new animation in the Breathe app, and there's a new reflect mode in the Breathe app as well. Sleep tracking will now give you respiratory rates when you're, tracking that account. The Photos app has also gotten a refresh, which will allow for better viewing of images and will also allow direct sharing from the app now. The Scribble mode has also improved for sending messages, and just improved to kind of edit those and change those up. That's very nice. And you can also send GIF responses, or GIF, whatever you call them, from the Apple Watch directly, which you couldn't do before. So you can only type things, but now you can send images and you can send GIFs from your Apple Watch. There is now support for multiple timers on the Apple Watch. I'm not sure if that's just Apple Watch or iOS as well, but Apple Watch can now support multiple timers, so that's awesome, especially if you're cooking or something and you need multiple timers running for different things. So watchOS 8 is going to be available on everything from the Series 3 and up, which is clearly just the trend for this year. Device support has not really dropped at all for anything in this last year. So moving on, tvOS wasn't mentioned at all, and there were a few changes to the HomeKit stuff. It all boiled down to the HomePod Mini getting more functionality, and there being a new curated list to show, content that everybody in the family might enjoy based on their different tastes. And finally, let's move on to macOS. And this year, the crack marketing team has landed on the name Monterey. So we have macOS 12 Monterey to look forward to later this year. And some of the changes are improved continuity, which will allow you to use your trackpad or mouse, and it'll allow you to use it from your Mac to your iPad, even if it's sitting right beside it. And this is a great feature for those of you who work with a computer and iPad side by side. Now, this is different from Sidecar. I just want to make it clear. Sidecar makes your iPad into a monitor, but this feature, what it allows you to do is to use your trackpad and mouse from your computer directly on iPadOS. This is not a second monitor for your computer. This is iPadOS directly. So it allows for things like dragging and dropping between the two and just using your keyboard on the iPad. So if you don't have the keyboard case for an iPad, but you still have an iPad, you can just use the keyboard on your computer and do stuff on that as well. Really, really awesome. And it just makes the experience between these two devices even more seamless. Another cool new feature is that you can now use any Mac as a AirPlay speaker. So if you just want to play some music from the really nice speakers on your iMac, that's something you can do now. And shortcuts are finally coming to the Mac. So they've been around on iOS for 2 years now, I think. And we finally get them on the Mac, which I think is going to be way more useful too, compared to shortcuts on iPad and iPadOS and iOS. So very interesting. And Safari will now be getting a new look and a revised tab layout. And they'll have things, something called a group tab, which will do is it allows you to create a group of tabs that have all the information you want for a specific topic. So say you're doing a research for a paper and you just want to get back to it, but you don't want to close all the tabs. Now what you can do is you can make a group tab, put them all in there, and close out everything else so that the Safari isn't cluttered and it just looks very minimal. These changes are going to be coming to iPadOS and iOS as well, which is very nice. So that is a very cross-platform update. They just didn't mention it earlier on in the keynote, so they mentioned it later. But yes, iPadOS and iOS will also have that updated tabbed Safari feature. And on the topic of these features coming to iPadOS and iOS, we will also have shared extensions for iPadOS and iOS as well. So like any extensions you use, like Honey or there's a bunch of them. So any extension you use on your computer, you can now use on iPadOS and iOS as well, which is going to be fantastic. So overall, the event had a lot of things in it, but nothing was really major or groundbreaking. And I don't mind that at all. I think small incremental changes are absolutely fine. And as long as they maintain reliability and stability as top priority, new features, in my opinion, can be spread out between launches and don't have to be, piled on all in one year. I think a lot of people just get excited about a bunch of new features or overhauls or new designs, but they just don't realize, how many issues that sometimes brings with it. I'm just looking forward to seeing all these new features slowly roll out, and I'm very excited to try them out. So let me know what you guys thought of WWDC 2021. Did you guys find it boring, or did you kind of enjoy what you saw today? What are you looking forward to most? iOS, iPadOS? I know for sure I'm looking forward to macOS a lot. That the changes in that seem very cool, and all the new Facetime features are super awesome. So feel free to let me know what you guys think down in the comments below, and of course, over on social media as well. I'll have all my handles right here on the screen, and of course down in the description as well. So if you haven't already, be sure to follow me over there for more behind the scenes and thoughts on this stuff. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll catch you in the next one.